What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about receiving and how we can start to put that into more conscious practice. Instead of unconsciously creating resistance to the things we desire, receiving lets us be open to actually experiencing the things we desire for a change. And so I think it's important to kind of start shifting out of the mindset of the slave-minded, cursed matrix brain where it's just like everything is slave-like, everything is hard and difficult, and some people are on pedestals and that's not for you, and this is just your lot in life type thing. All these kind of limiting beliefs and assumptions that carried it in from the old mindset need to really be let go of. And that has to do too with receiving desirable things. A lot of times there might be guilt and shame when it comes to actually receiving desirable things. Like, I feel like happy that I'm able to achieve this. Meanwhile, I look around me and I see everybody else is living this lifestyle that is unhappy and miserable. And so I feel like there must be something wrong with me that, whatever that resistance is that's keeping you stuck at a specific level, that's the thing to kind of let go of. And so to start in this practice, realize you've already been doing this. This isn't something new. It's just interpreting what has already been to work more and more to your benefit, I guess, on some level. And to do that, what's already manifested. Look at your life. Look at the situations in your life, like your marriage, your relationships, your finances, your health, your state of mind. All of these different things are already a result of either your conscious mentality or your unconscious programming. And so to start getting in more of a receiving mode might be actually difficult because so many times the old mindset gets used to being cursed and getting the opposite of what you want. And so the idea that you can actually be free, to be abundant, to be prosperous, to be healthy, a lot of those things might be kind of filled with resistance and programming that needs to be brought to the surface of your consciousness, and then making a choice to let it go and to experience something new. And when it comes to receiving, it's part of like the old nature to kind of want to be in your mind about the how that it's going to manifest. Try to ride the vibe more of the what you are trying to achieve externally to demonstrate that, your desire or whatever. Try to put it on as though it's already an inherent fact, because in the quantum level, it is already that way, because that's already part of who you are. A lot of the things that we're trying to demonstrate is aspects of our nature that are hidden under a lot of programming. And then we're looking out into creation and going, well, that person is demonstrating maybe wealth and they seem happy, so then it's natural for me to want to do what they're doing so I can feel a certain way. Well, you have to look at what you're trying to achieve and figure out what is it you're trying to achieve, as far as an emotion. It's like, oh, I'm trying to get this milestone because I want to feel free. I want to feel a certain way, and get to that feeling state of what you're trying to do anyway. You're like, well, I want to feel more attractive. I want to feel more abundant. I want to feel healthier. I want to feel stronger. I want to feel whatever it is, and then start taking whatever divine kind of inspiration starts to hit you in the moment. Start to look at that, either take action, because a lot of times you already know what to do. It's like if you're out of shape and you're feeling like, I don't feel very desirable. I don't like how I feel. I don't like the lack of energy I have. I don't like how, I don't feel like desirable. Whatever it is you're feeling that you don't appreciate, that you don't like, you can start to use that to kind of ask infinite intelligence on some level, well, what's the alternative to this? Well, you already know. It's like, well, I should maybe do some push-ups. I should watch what I'm eating. I should, stop, drinking 18 beers in one night. It's like these kind of things. You already kind of know. And so it's about finally just going, okay, It's been nagging me in my consciousness for a while to change out of this undesirable state to this new state. but then there's all this resistance and fear. Ultimately, there's a lot of times there's like a fear barrier that keeps you locked in like a specific state. Like I'm getting ready to get my hip replaced in less than a week, and I can feel the fear of that, where it's just like it's new. There's like an unknown factor, and I've learned just through repetition over and over again, just through having a business and, doing all these different things that were like scary at first. It's like that fear in itself is like an illusion, and it's actually trying to keep you locked into this comfortable, undesirable state. It's like, yeah, well, this state might suck, but it could be worse. It could be a lot worse. So you should be grateful that you're only at an 8 in terms of pain every day compared to a 9 or a 10. But then the thing with the undesirable is it keeps spreading. It grows. The more that you're stuck in a receiving mode of what you don't want through resisting what you do desire, you're not accepting your desires. Another way to look at that kind of way of acceptance, because the world has an idea of what acceptance is. Like the world will say you have to accept states of hell, for example. But that's not who you are. So it's like you can experience the states of hell, but then you can make the choice to experience more states of heaven that is always just happening to you. It's always just reaping and sowing this correspondence in consciousness. And so the more that you're able to be in a receiving mode of what you do want, what feels good to you, I mean, you already know by kind of getting to the end of it, that feeling of it, it feels satisfying, it feels I feel more free. I feel safe. I feel like God loves me. I feel like whatever these different things that you're desiring, which is showing you an insufficiency in your own being. So instead of like looking at desire as some pie in the sky types of goals or whatever, look at it as a way that your inner being, the divine spark of you, is that already, and by you not demonstrating it, there's a desire that's kind of forcing you to either make a choice to accept your desire or to reject it through whatever kind of judgment programming you have. And the thing with like the judgments that come in is not to say you just immediately stop doing that, but become more aware of where your judgment actually is in terms of why you're resisting a certain thing. Money is a really excellent example because a lot of people, the majority, are in a scarcity mindset. Even people that the world would put on a pedestal as being super abundant, a lot of those people are in such fear of loss that they're like desperately clinging on to the status quo or whatever, even doubling down on things that are failing. And so it's not a helpful strategy to continue to just hold on to those kinds of errors in thinking. It actually leads to self-destruction. It actually leads to the unconscious fulfillment of the undesirable. And so getting out of that so that you can create more elaborate versions of heaven on earth is really important, and so and that's on you to do that. It starts and kind of ends with you. As you start to put on the state of heaven, then it starts to become mirrored back to you through creation that you're occupying that state. And so the more that you're able to receive heaven, the more that you're able to demonstrate it to not only yourself but then to others. And so looking at that as acceptance, accepting that heaven is your natural state of mind, that is who you are connected with your creator, that is normal and natural. It's all part of accepting this new thing, whereas the world would want you to accept hell. It's a process of discerning between the two and then choosing what you want to receive. And so a lot of people don't realize they have that choice, and they feel stuck, and they feel like, well, this is what it is. And then they look at people and put them on pedestals, create a bunch of resistance about, this is so difficult to hit these milestones. It's like, it's not difficult. You just have to be open to receive it and be led through a bridge of incidents without fucking just being super reactive and being unconscious about it. let go of a lot of those matrix programmings that are keeping you stuck in scarcity, that are keeping you in receiving scarcity, because that's what you're doing. You're either receiving abundance or you're receiving scarcity, and you're doing that in every moment of now. It's being done to you. It's happening to you after you've already planted those seeds in your consciousness. Consciously or unconsciously. Most of the time it's unconscious that you've enslaved yourself. You didn't mean to do it, but you planted those seeds because your parents planted those seeds, your culture around you planted those seeds. It is part of your development. We all start off going from death to life. So we start off from being unconscious to conscious, from being a slave to free. And so it's really about the choice then to receive your inheritance. God's already blessed you. The only reason you don't see that in your life is because you just don't accept that. You resist that. You push that away. And so receiving is about not pushing away love, pushing away heaven, pushing away the desirable. Instead, then the alternative is by you doing that, you're unconsciously accepting drama, hell, fucking the undesirable, decay, constriction, fear, hysteria, anger, all of this bullshit that you don't even want. Is the shit you don't want is what you're accepting and you're receiving unconsciously through your own faith in, oh, I'm not worthy of receiving this. Oh, I should feel ashamed. I should feel guilty. I should feel however type of way. Whatever excuse, whatever assumption, whatever limiting belief that you have in your consciousness that's keeping you stuck at that level, that's what you have to choose to let go of, to be open to hit the level above it. And it's like, you don't have to develop your consciousness to prepare yourself for that. All you have to do is start to put on the conscious choice to start receiving more and more love in your life. And how God manifests that in the here and now, what's unfolding now. That who knows that way? That way is unknowable. And it's like the more that you can get to a space of not even caring, the more effortlessly and easy and the way it all just comes together more and more like naturally, I guess, on some level. Because when you're really wanting it to happen, when you're putting it on a pedestal, when you're dreaming really big, well, then the slave matrix programming comes in and goes, oh, well, that's going to be difficult. That's going to require a lot of things coming together. Do you have what it takes to do that? Do you have what it takes to find the people to make this happen and network and do and put in the efforting and time and everything? And it's like, when you trust that God does the legwork to these things, that all minds are joined and connected on some level. So as you put on your new state, as you're receiving more and more states of heaven in the here and now, then, like I said, it's a big mirror that God's going to connect you with the right people, all orchestrating it as normally, as naturally as it's always been for you. And it's not till you almost get to the end of it and look back and connect the dots, it's like, oh, I was led through this whole thing. But as you're being led, a lot of times you face your fears that have kept you at that certain level, because you have to develop the consciousness at the same time to be able to demonstrate that new state. And that's part of God's work. God develops your consciousness and prepares you mentally to be able to steward the outer demonstration and be able to do it without a bunch of fear and hysteria and resistance. And so that's all part of the receiving process. And the more that you're able to go take your hands off the wheel of wanting to control, get more into the state of already being blessed. You are blessed right now. What does that look like? Not really sure. I know what it doesn't look like. I know what it wasn't. And so it's easier to now kind of start growing that from here. But that's part of it. It's a growing process that you are actively doing. It's like working out your body. There's a progression. It's like music. There's a progression. Skateboarding, progression. It's all a process. And so by the time you get from point A to point B and are able to demonstrate, like guitar is a really good example, where it's like you go from just fiddle fucking around on it to being able to maybe play in front of a large crowd of people or record something and it sounds fucking on point and people appreciate it and like it and love it and whatever. By the time you get to that point, you've already developed, through, this progression, so it feels like normal and natural, and it's not this big pedestal anymore. It's not like, oh, I don't know, I'm getting so nervous about it, I'm getting so, like butterflies or whatever. And it's like, that's part of like going through it, is you have to face that kind of shit to get through it. And then once you face it, then you realize any type of fucking drama can be boiled down to simple things that you can do now. It's like, like, for example, if you get like a big, like my handyman business is like an example of that, where it's like, okay, say somebody wants to renovate their bathroom, and it's like, come to an agreement, everything's good to go, you got the deposit, and then it's like, okay, shit, this is going down. Where do I start? What do I do? You can get in your mind trying to come up with the perfect plan, the perfect fucking whatever. I've always found that to be an error, because it's like the unexpected shit happens regardless of how much you think about it, and because it's almost supernaturally happening. And so it's like, the more that you just go, well, first thing I can do is I can start preparing this countertop. I can get this shit off of it. That's simple. You start doing that, and then it's like, that's done. It's like, okay, well, progress. Now what? No, I can take that mirror down. Progress. It's like, okay, well, I guess I can just start prepping things. And then an hour or two goes by, and it's like, okay, well, the room's prepped. And it's like, well, now you got to take the old bathtub out. Everything else is, and then you do the next thing, and the next thing. And then it's just, the more that you're open for inspiration at the same time, for the help from infinite intelligence to spur you, to give you an idea, to point the way to you, that happens too. It's like, the more that you develop your relationship with your creator, the more that you realize you're not alone, that this challenge or this fucking whatever you're doing, there's a force that will be there to help guide you in your awareness. The more that you're able to clear your mind of the old mental chatter and the negative self-talk of like, oh, well, you suck at this, and oh, look what happened, oh, you dropped that down the drain, oh, look, you dropped your hammer underneath the floor, you're never going to get that back. You're just, this fucking retarded critic that can start to just create the undesirable situation. The more that you're able to observe that without being triggered, and then realize that everything that's going on is new. Maybe in the past that was helpful to have that kind of inner critic. It kept you on some level safe from a dangerous situation or something. But the more that you're able to let the past be the past, let the future be the future, and live more in the present moment of what's unfolding now. Oh, an undesirable situation. Oh, an undesirable situation. Oh, an undesirable situation. And it's like, okay, wait a sec. Why am I just being faced with all this undesirable shit today? Realizing that there's a correspondence between a mental attitude and this shit going on. There's symbolically something happening. And as soon as you make the shift in your mind to choose to receive more blessing, and not to sit in judgment and go, okay, well, this is just happening. I'll accept that this is part of a bigger picture that I don't see yet, that I'm being led down this bridge of incidents, and I'm just going to trust that God's in control of the situation. When something happens, I'll be able to handle it perfectly, because I'm going to be led to the correct way to deal with it. I'm going to choose not to become reactive and in fear about it, which is what my old slave mind would do, and then resist the desire that I'm actually trying to achieve. And as I'm in this fucking mix right now, either I stay with it, and then the desire is on the other end of it, the goal or whatever. It's like on the other side of this fucking issue, so it's like in skateboarding. It's like, people that never did that don't realize probably how often that you fall and fucking bail, and it's like, I at least that was my fucking experience of it. I was really impressed when I was a kid, because my buddy, his older brother, he was like semi-professional skateboarder, and like still on some level I think is in that whole industry, but like he would send videos. They used to tape it on like VHS tapes, and this was like, some of the like early Jackass guys, like they were all kind of friends or whatever, and so like they would send VHS tapes to my friend, and then we'd watch them. And then in that, not only would they like send them like landing the trick and shit, but then they'd also show a lot of like the attempts and like the failures, so it's like you watch like my buddy's brother like try to kickflip like a 7-stair or something, and you're sitting there watching it, and like you're used to this idea like, oh, they'll fucking nail it every time, and it's like, damn, he's fucking getting pretty big slams. He's not landing that very fucking easily, and he wanted to show us that that's part of the fucking thing. It's not all about just sticking the tricks at times, and that's like one of the reasons too, when like I'll do like the guitar cover videos, and I'll just record them in just like one take. They'll be like, pretty much like spot on for the most part. Like in my mind, it's like, well, if I could just cut a chord and if I make a mistake like that, and it's like I fuck a chord up or I do the wrong chord or something, I'll just leave it in there just for other guitar players that might be watching, because I feel like that's an important part of the puzzle, when you're learning something. I don't like, watching guitar players and shit that just constantly cutting different camera angles, because to me, it's like, oh, well, you only had to do that one thing flawlessly or whatever, and then who knows how many times that took. Could you do it again in a live situation? It's like, and that's just my own stuff, but, it's like, being more and more engaged in that process, realizing that going from scarcity to abundance, for example, there's many levels of that, and so it's like you start where you're at. Well, a lot of times the fear has enslaved you to a certain level. You're already receiving what you can receive without resistance and pushing more away. So looking at your life as like, this is exactly the representation of my consciousness. Well, then you can start to shift it and go, well, maybe I should give myself a $5,000 bonus this week. Well, Mike, then here comes the stories and the negatives and why you don't feel worthy of receiving that, why that's going to be a difficult challenge, why that other people can do that and you can't do that, why, all of this fucking shit that's pushing like a lump sum like that away from you. And it's like, you don't know how that could happen. Someone could die and like that you didn't really know, and it's like, oh, I got an inheritance I wasn't aware of. You could win a lottery. You could just like all of a sudden just get a donation. I don't know other people's financial situation, but it's like for me, there's many ways that could manifest. But then you have all the dramas and the resistances of not receiving it. Why you shouldn't receive it, why you should feel guilty for even, you shouldn't be specific on your manifestation, or you shouldn't be specific in something like that, because then it creates resistance. And then you have that story and shit. So it's like, getting more into a receiving mode. Start where you are already at and start to grow it. So if $5,000 in a week or whatever, if like bonus is like fucking super pedestal, there's no difference between making $10 and $5,000. It's the same power that brought you both. And the world will tell you that's nonsense. The world will point to the bridge of incidents or the synchronicities and be like, well, it's that did it. Not, in that ignorance, not realizing the cause is in consciousness and your relationship to God ultimately. Because it's like, if you believe that there's like judgments on like $5,000 or whatever, for example, of like, well, that's evil, that's being stingy, or that's being, what was one like a religious way of saying that was like I can't think of it off the top of my, it's like, well, that's just greediness. Oh, that's a love of money. Oh, that's this. It's like, well, it's not really that, because it's like you're using your relationship and your knowledge of God to demonstrate your faith. God is the source of your abundance. So what's evil then? If God's giving it to you and God takes pleasure in prospering you according to the Bible, then what's this limitation? What's this resistance? Why are you pushing away your inheritance being blessed. I mean, what was going on? No, then you have the mental story and negative, yeah, and whatever. And so to get you from point A, where you're at now, to point B, where you're receiving like $5,000 or whatever the amount is that's doable, that doesn't feel like unbelievable to you. If that's $200, that's $200. Whatever it happens to be, do whatever you can do, which is just a hair above where you think is possible. Because you got to grow your faith to get from point A to point B, and there's going to be a series of events that happens to develop your consciousness to get you to that state of abundance to be able to receive it. That's where you need to depend on God to help you do that, because God will help develop your consciousness to be able to receive things like that without feeling guilty, without feeling shame, without feeling like you did something wrong, like, oh, you cheated somebody out of it. It's like, you have no competition, and there's abundance for everybody, and the people that you see are reaping what they're sowing in consciousness. So it's like, it's a perfect environment with things that are desirable and undesirable. You can choose which one you want, though. And so now is when you start to make those choices. And so start being more open to receiving. Put that into practice more and more so today, just to be open to it and let God surprise you on how things unfold. And if you start being confronted with the exact opposite of what you're desiring, like, oh, Mike said, $5,000, and to me that feels doable and possible. Well, then boom, then you get some fucking drama or something, like, where'd this come from out of the blue? Instead of becoming fearful and reactive to that, realize that that's the first step in this bridge of incidents. And the sooner that you recognize that and can kind of laugh at it, where it's like your slave mind wants to be fearful and hysterical, in that moment, choose love, choose to ask God what to do, and be still, wait on infinite intelligence to implant your mind with a new perspective, a new way to look at that, a higher vision, and then go from there. And so, yeah, I just want to share that with you guys, and hopefully put that into practice. I'm going to put it into practice, from now moving forward, more and more so each day, because I catch myself. I wouldn't say staying stagnant, but it's easy for me at this point to like just be comfortable with the way things are, and not be growing, not to be expanding and stuff, and so and not to have a bigger goal or dream or thinking bigger, because it's like I've already kind of feel somewhat comfortable, I guess, or not comfortable, but satisfied, maybe is that the right word? Like, I don't really feel like I need anything else, but at the same time, it's fun to demonstrate new levels of things. It's fun to reinvent yourself. It's fun to achieve goals, to have something in mind and actually fucking start doing it. It's like my goal before my surgery was to get to a weight of like 165, which I'm getting pretty fucking close, which last time I was at the Y a week or so ago, I think I was at 172 or 173 according to their scale. And so, I've been kind of, I wouldn't say starving myself, but like the surgery is coming up next week, and so I got like this final crunch. I've been trying to kind of just cut, doing a lot more exercises and shit just to hit that, because I just want to get to the surgery and weigh in at 165. I don't know why. It's just that the doctor told me that was where I should be as far as my weight goes. And it's like, okay, let's fucking do it then. I haven't I normally teetered around 175-ish for the most part, my adult life. In middle school, when I used to wrestle and shit, I used to wrestle at like 145, and so to get down in that level, I don't know. Now we'll see what it does. I definitely feel a big relief when it comes to joint pain from losing, because last winter I was about 200 pounds. And I might do a video on like weight loss, because I've kind of gotten into a really solid flow of it. That's really, I don't find it difficult, and it might be helpful for people that might be struggling with feeling hungry and wanting to eat. I'll just share this. A quick tip. It's like when you feel the sensation of being hungry, instead of like looking at it and having a mental narrative like boo hoo, woe is me kind of mindset, look at when you're hungry as a sign that you're actively like burning fat and like losing weight. And if you can start to balance, because I don't feel like there's a neutral, so it's like you're either full or you're hungry, and there's like a spectrum. Maybe like there's like a time where you're just not consciously aware of being full or hungry, not really thinking about it. But if you are able to be comfortable in the knowledge that, oh, I feel hungry, realizing that, hey, I'm losing weight. And if you can spend most of like the here and now day, just living the same day over and over again, at kind of a deficit, feeling a little bit more hungry than full. And like what I'll do is I'll eat like maybe 500-600 calories, which is like a sandwich for lunch, and then eat whatever the fuck I want for dinner. Normally you can get about, if you eat like a 1,200 calorie dinner or a 1,000 calorie dinner, that's kind of a lot of food. And so I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything, where it's just like, but I gotta go. Thanks for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. Until the next now, God bless.